to explain the data. The less you can rely on numbers to make the case, the more compelling it will be. Spend time to develop a clear analogy to explain complex topics or use a specific story that exemplifies data you want to convey. The most important is eliminating jargons and acronyms in policy communication. In academic field, everyone understands the jargons and acronyms in each of the subject. Policymakers may not understand and may not have the time to understand all of those jargons and acronyms. If, for example, the term work may mean many things in physics or in economics, it may mean differently. So we have to be very effective in terms of policy communication. This is the last time that talks about challenges in evidence-based policy making. We talked about some of the challenges of an evidence-based policy making. Very often, I mean, the translation of evidence-based policy to developing countries' context presents considerable challenges. So therefore, there could be considerable diversity, cultural, economic, and political context, which makes it especially difficult to draw valid generalization. For example, the first developing countries often have more troubled political context. There are many places with limited or political freedoms or no democratic process. One has to consider these type of aspects in policy making. Many countries have a deficit in these areas, even if they are seen as democratic. Second, at the extreme level, some developing countries are characterized by conflicts, political conflicts, civil conflicts, low intensity conflicts, which makes evidence-based idea of evidence-based policy making limited in application. Third, developing countries tend to be more politically volatile. So political volatility tends to have a negative impact on the use of evidence in policy process. In addition to general democracy context, some other specific studies are relevant here. Academic freedom is a critical context issue for evidence policy. And thank you so much for your patience.
Thank you, Prof. Arghasami. If anyone has any questions, you are free to ask them now. Thank you all for attending this lecture. Looking forward to seeing you next Thursday at the same time. Dr. Sana, please feel free to ask, please.
Okay, thank you, Alha. Thank you very much, Prof, for this important lecture. So if I understand correctly, policy report or brief is always an analysis of policy instrument currently implemented, that we need to provide some critics or limitation of current policy and provide a suggestion for a new policy to be as alternative to the new policy. Am I correct?
Yeah, see, policy brief is an instrument for your policy communication. In policy brief, you try to present your evidence and also the policy conclusions, including its strengths and limitations.
Okay.
Okay,
can it be the other way around? Like I support the current policy, okay, and then give proof that is the best perfect policy to solve the issue?
Yes, absolutely.
Can it be also considered? Okay.
Yeah. If your evidence suggests that the existing policy is great and is so good, then ideally you should just say that the current policy is very good and the alternative policy is not really, has no value. You can really say that. But
so it is still considered as a policy report, huh?
Policy making. Okay. So now the point is that a policy brief alone is a tool. It is just a tool. It is not an eventual and ultimate instrument for policy making.
Okay, thanks.
It is a researcher, it's a policy analyst or researchers. We are writing a policy brief. Not all of the policy briefs or all of the policy documents that we prepare. Yet the goal is to influence the policymakers. So there is a step again. In the first slide, I showed the four skill set. So in a policy brief, possibly you have reached the third stage. But to reach the fourth stage, to reach out to the policymakers, so you need further communication, interaction. And if there is a real robust value of evidence that really will contribute to a policy, make a policy contribution, then the next step is very important to interact, work with, communicate with the policymaker. The idea of policy synthesis is even more greater. I mean, in a policy brief, we are ideally required to present evidence in terms of synthesis. It's not only a particular evidence that you are presenting. You have done a survey and then you are presenting evidence there. But if you are aiming to present a robust policy conclusion, possibly you should look at the relevant other evidences also, the competing evidences, and what your evidence contributes as an incremental value for policy, for a new policy.
Thanks, Prof.
Any questions? Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Dr. Al-Kassiami.
Thank you.